Welcome to Why Jerusalem, a new series about God's special purpose with this city. We continue our Bible study with our special guest, Reverend Willem Glashouwer. Thank you for coming again in the studio. We've been on an interesting journey through the Bible, looking to the places where God is referring to Israel, to Jerusalem as a special city. Where did we end last time?
Well, last time we left the audience with Moses. In the first episode we talked about that Jesus said that Jerusalem would be trampled upon by Gentiles for many centuries, and that has happened. Then we looked at the beginning. Where in the Bible do we first hear about this place, Jerusalem? And we talked about Melchizedek in Genesis 14. We're at the beginning of the Jewish people. Only Abraham is there. And by the way, Abraham lived about 2,000 years before Christ.
Okay.
So that is 4,000 years from now. There was Abraham who heard the voice of God, went to the land that was promised to him, got in all kind of trouble, meets with Melchizedek on a place called Salem. Melchizedek is king priest of Salem.
The first time.
Jerusalem. That's the first time in the Bible you hear about this place. Then we went on to again the life of Abraham, where he's willing to sacrifice his son Isaac on a mountain that is in a region called Moriah. And there Abraham says, this mountain will be called the mountain where the Lord provides in what I needed. So there's a place, a mountain in the region of Moriah. There's a city, Salem, where God provides. Then we went on to Moses, and then in time you are about 1250 before Christ, so 750 years after Abraham.
Yes.
There Israel is in slavery, and under Moses they are led through the sea. Pharaoh and his army drown in the waters, but Israel, with dry feet, comes on the other shore. Moses sings this beautiful song in Exodus 15.
Moses
then
and
he
Miriam,
says, together with Miriam, she adds, after his song, Miriam sang to them, sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has hurled into the sea. So that's what Miriam adds to the song of Moses. Yes. But Moses finishes his song by saying, you will lead us to a land and to a mountain where your name will dwell. He's even talking about a sanctuary at the end of the song in Exodus 15. And then after that he concludes with the Lord will reign forever and ever. But again, there is a mountain, but no name attached to the mountain. Just a mountain somewhere in the promised land.
But it shows that God is connected and chosen a mountain and a place where his glory will dwell.
Exactly. Now, Moses said more about this place where God would make his name dwell. For instance, in the book of Deuteronomy, he gives all kind of instructions to the people of Israel, how to sacrifice, where to bring their tithe, the 10%, etc. And then he says in Deuteronomy 12 verse 10, you will cross the Jordan, settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. He will give you rest from all your enemies around you, so that you will live in safety. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name.
Again.
There you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your special gifts, etc., etc., etc. So Moses says, again, there will be a place, there you have to bring the 10%, there you have to bring your sacrifices, etc. That's a place that the Lord has chosen as a dwelling for his name. But again, no name.
No.
And he even adds to that in the 16th chapter, in verse 5, when he's talking about Pesach, about Passover, about the sacrifice of the lamb, you know. They left Egypt, but they first had to slaughter a lamb.
Yes.
Put the blood on the doorposts so that the angel of death would pass them by. And that's remembered in the feast of Pesach, Passover, that the angel of death passed them over. Sacrifice as the Passover to the Lord your God an animal from your flock at the place the Lord will choose as a dwelling for his name. So the Pesach lamb could only be slaughtered on that special place. Verse 5, you must not sacrifice the Passover in any town the Lord your God gives you, except in the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name. There you must sacrifice the Passover in the evening, when the sun goes down.
It looks like God really thinks it's very important that it comes to a place.
Only there
Yes.
can the lamb be slaughtered. And when you're a Christian, something starts to ring in your ears.
Yes. A lamb.
Sometime a lamb would be slaughtered on a special place. And the blood will cover you from eternal death, and you will have life everlasting. Where was the Lamb of God slaughtered in the end? Where was Jesus crucified?
Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem. But we're not there yet. We're only following Israel.
But we slowly start to get a glimpse.
We start to understand where this all will lead to.
Yes.
So, okay, there will be, and there his name will dwell. Well, during the desert period, when Israel traveled from Egypt to the promised land, there was this tent, this tabernacle, as you know. And in the tent there was the Holy of Holiest, there was the ark, a chest of wood covered with gold, the stone tablets were in it with the 10 Commandments. There God lived. They were
amongst
led
the people. Yeah.
Amongst the people, like a cloud in the daytime and like a column of fire in the night time, moving with the people, leading them forward. So there God dwelt in the tabernacle, in the Holy of Holies. There the sacrifices on the altar, etc. The whole thing was there. So he lived in that place and moved forward with the people. But ultimately there would be a place where he would dwell without being moved any further.
They knew they were going to some place to find rest, to end up,
around that place, so to speak. Now, Moses has not seen the promised land. Yes, he has seen it from Mount Nebo. He gets a glimpse of the land.
But he was not entering it.
But he was not entering the land. Under Joshua, the people of Israel, after 40 years in the desert, finally entered, they crossed the Jordan and started getting the land. Now, in the conquest of the land, God says, be strong and courageous, be strong and courageous. There are a lot of people, Canaanites, Girgashites, Hittites, Amorites, Jebusites, etc.
All ites.
All kind of ites.
Yes.
But trust me, be strong and courageous where you put the sole of your feet that I'm going to give you. So you will experience the giving in the going. You have to go in faith, and then you will experience that my promises are true. You will get the land. So we hear about the city of Jericho, we hear about the city of Ai, we hear about the 12 tribes each getting a part of the promised land ultimately. And then you read in Joshua 15 about the part that the tribe of Judah would get of the promised land. Reuben had his part, Manasseh.
Yeah, because every tribe got a different part of the land.
Exactly. All the 12 tribes, Manasseh, Zebulun, all of them.
Yes.
So now this part in Joshua 15 talks about the part of Judah, of the tribe of Judah. They conquer all kind of lands. Also Gaza is part of their allotment of Judah. But then you read in the final verse of Joshua 15, Judah could not dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live there with the people of Judah. So the people of Judah there, and alongside with them in Jerusalem, the Jebusites. Well, of course, they thought, oh, maybe it's just one city, we have a lot more around it. But it's funny that it said they could not dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. Having no idea what was so special about Jerusalem, because still they had no idea where the place would be where God's name would dwell.
It was just a place that they
just
inherited.
One of the places, etc. It's on 800 meters. There's only one water well. It's on the edge of the desert. So it's very hard to conquer, because what the Jebusites did, they had covered the well, and you could only reach the water through a tunnel. And of course, when these hostile armies came, they closed everything. They had water, they had food. These foreigners couldn't sustain long in the climate of the desert, so they had to move again. So they were really high and dry up there with water and food. So the Jebusites lived there.
But it's almost a mystery, because you would think from your human point of view, like, okay, if God thinks this city is so special, he would tell the people and they would follow his instructions, and then it will go exactly like he has planned.
Yeah.
But
no, time had
somehow
not yet come.
No.
So the tabernacle, the tent, was put either in Shiloh or in Kiryat Jearim or in other places in the land, because they had no idea where the place was that God would choose as a dwelling for his name. And you read all kind of things that happened with the tabernacle, what happened with the ark, that one day they took the ark of the covenant with the 2 stone tablets with the 10 commandments in front of their army to fight the Philistines, and then the Philistines get the ark and they are happy. They have the central thing of Israel's religion. They put it in one of the temples of their own gods, but then disaster after disaster hit them. So then they say, please, please, please take that thing back to you guys, because it only gives us a lot of trouble. And so they come and get the ark, but where to put it? Let's continue. Finally, in Judges 1, it's after the time of Joshua. He had died. And
so do
time
you know
goes on
what kind of time schedule we are?
It is somewhere between 1200 and 1000 BC. So let's say 1100 BC. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites asked the Lord, who will be the first to go up and fight for us against the Canaanites? Their leader has died, so someone else. And then the Lord answered, Judah is to go. I have given the land into their hands. So then Judah starts to fight. And then you read in verse 8 of Judges 1, the men of Judah attacked Jerusalem also and took it. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. After that, the men of Judah went down to fight. They went down from the 800 meters back to the valley against the Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev and the western foothills. So
the desert,
they come to Jerusalem, they conquer Jerusalem, this hostile citadel of the Jebusites. They set fire to the place, destroy it, one enemy less, and simply go on and continue fighting somewhere else. So the Jebusites are watching this and they say, hey, that's nice. They left the place again. So they come back live in the city and live happily ever after, rebuilt it. And so then you come to Judges 19. There's a man, we won't go into the story, but just this aspect of him. He's traveling and he wants to have a place for the night to stay.
Yes.
Because the sun is setting and then you better find a place. Someone offers him his home, but he says, no, I want to continue. Unwilling to stay another night, the man left and went towards Jebus, that is Jerusalem, it says. So the city was also called Jebus because of the Jebusites living there. That is Jerusalem, with his 2 saddled donkeys. When they were near Jebus and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let's stop at this city of the Jebusites and spend the night. Maybe they have a small hostel or someone is willing to open up his home or whatever." His master replied, "No, we won't go into an alien city whose people are not Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." And so they travel on to another place.
But it shows that Jerusalem is not from the Israelites.
It's of the Jebusites. Yeah. So they have returned, live happily ever after, and it is considered to be a strange city. Now, to make a long story short, we finally come to the days of King David, after Saul, the king of Israel.
The great king.
The great king of Israel. And then you are in the year 1000 BC.
Okay.
So it was promised already to Abram 2000 BC. Moses talks about it. The land is conquered. Joshua is the judges. Finally the kings. And then under King David, who is from the tribe of Judah, finally manages to conquer the city. Let's turn to 1 Chronicles 11. Here we read in 1 Chronicles 11 verse 4, David and all the Israelites marched to Jerusalem, that is Jebus, it said. The Jebusites who lived there said to David, "You will not get in here." Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, the city of David.
So the first time it's also referred as Zion.
Here you read the name Zion.
Yes.
Which is the city of David, which is the fortress of the Jebusites. And they did it through the tunnel. Somehow they have discovered the secret of the tunnel. And so they entered, they could find how to get into the tunnel, and through the tunnel conquered the city of the Jebusites. Well, praise the Lord.
Yes.
They finally have this place. But David has no clue what kind of place he now has.
Yeah.
The tabernacle is still out there, the Ark of the Covenant is somewhere, etc.
So this is actually the detective aspect about it, because we actually don't know either.
No.
We're just following.
We're following the trail.
Yes.
Now David was a sinner, like all of us. And he committed great and big sins. And one day God is so angry with David and the sins that he judges the nation of Israel because of David's sin. David was proud of himself. He counted the people to show off, to show how important, what a great king he was. But God will not allow that.
It was a big sin against him.
He's the king of Israel. Yes. And so he gets very angry with David. And then God punishes Israel. You read it in 2 Samuel 24.
It looks like this is also the heart of the struggle of Israel all the time, isn't it? Like God,
always.
The king of Israel, but they refuse him.
Yes, and the king is even sometimes against the God of Israel. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from that morning, you read in 2 Samuel 24, verse 15, until the end of the time designated, and 70,000 of the people of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, Dan in the north and Beersheba in the south, died. When the angel stretched out, listen to this, when the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord was grieved because of the calamity, and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, enough, withdraw your hand. And the angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So when the judgment of God, when the angel of death that killed 70,000 in Israel comes to Jerusalem, then God suddenly says, stop. No judgment on this place. Withdraw your sword.
And David must have seen it. David was watching, yeah.
The threshing floor on the top of the hill of Araunah the Jebusite. And still he has no understanding why it stops there.
Yeah.
At that certain place on the top of that mountain. But there's a prophet of the Lord by the name of Gad, and God starts to understand something. He says, King David, what you should do is this. You should erect an altar and bring thank offerings to the Lord. So what you should do is go to this Jebusite Araunah, or Ornan as he's also called in the Bible, and buy the place in order that you can make this altar,
Yes.
bring the sacrifices to thank God for the deliverance. So David does it. And then you get a typical Middle East scene. He goes to Araunah and he says, I'd like to have your threshing floor. And then Araunah says, well, king, what is a threshing floor between you and me? Please take it as a gift. I'll give it to you. No, says King David, I want to buy it. So he's not conquering the place, he wants to buy it. And then Araunah mentions a price that is so high, an enormous amount of silver and an amount of gold for the place of where the altar is going to be. And then you are negotiating. Go back and forth until you meet in the middle somewhere and have the fair price. David does not negotiate. He simply pays the price in silver and gold for that place. Then he builds an altar, and then you read in the parallel story in the first book of Chronicles. It's mentioned in 2 Samuel as well, but here in 1 Chronicles 21.
It's the same.
That's the same
topic, yes.
Yeah, from different perspectives.
Okay.
Sometimes these books give this aspect, other aspects, so that you get a complete picture. Yeah. Like with the 4 Gospels that give a
different perspective, yes.
On Jesus.
Yes.
So in 1 Chronicles 21, there it says, so David paid Araunah 600 shekels of gold for the site. David built an altar to the Lord there, sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. He called on the Lord. So the altar is there, the sacrifices is there. Now he calls upon the Lord. And the Lord answered him with fire from heaven on the altar of burnt offerings. Suddenly, the fire of the Lord comes down from heaven and takes the offering.
Accepts the offering.
Accepts the offering, yes. Takes it, as if God says, yes, this is the place where my name will dwell.
Finally, you understand.
Finally, David is the one who is allowed to find the place that the Lord has chosen as a dwelling for his name. So now he understands that he has to build a house for the Lord, a temple, so that the tabernacle can come to rest and everything that's in it can be transferred, no longer in a tent traveling to all places, but here in the center of the city of Jerusalem, on Mount Zion, a house of the Lord should be built. He wants to build it, but he's not allowed to, because he has too much blood on his hand. He was a fighter all his life. So he brings in all the gold and the wood and the stone, what is necessary, the preparations he does. But it is Solomon, his son, who builds the temple.
So finally, it seems like God has a place to live in his own land, amongst his own people.
Exactly.
This is very interesting to hear that finally the place is discovered by the Jewish people, by David himself. And
yes,
we have to end here because the program is already till its end. And but I'm very thankful for the new discoverings that we have done through the Bible. And we will continue our talking on this topic in our next program. Thank you for joining us and don't miss it. Thank you, Willem.